GNC is trying to pull off this magical feat where they can close 1,000 plus locations, but actually grow its physical retail exposure. Did that opening statement confuse you? If you are a retail strategy nerd like myself, or if you're a longtime follower of the nutritional supplement specialty retailer GNC, it might not be all that confusing. GNC is essentially trying to pull a few new rabbits out of the same old hat. So if you're not getting my magician analogy here, what picture I'm trying to show you is that the rabbits, the new rabbits, these are retail partners, and then the same old hat, that is the strategic retail partnerships. And GNC has been doing those for over 2 decades. Now, for those that might not be too aware of what a strategic retail partnership is, it could be a ton of different things, but what I'm mostly talking about here is a kind of a retail partnership where one retailer essentially sets up a store within a store or actively takes control of the category for another retailer. And you guys see strategic retail partnerships all around you in your day-to-day lives. What we're talking about here is Kroger being inside of some of the Walgreens. You have CVS's inside of some of the Target locations. You also have things like Amazon having a smart home section. They've taken control of that from Kohl's. Kohl's also allows Amazon.com returns to their store. That's a totally different retail strategy, one that I'm not going to kind of dive into in this particular video, but you kind of already see that happening around you. Essentially, these retailers are teaming up because they want to create some win-win outcomes. The landscape, competitive landscape as a whole for physical retailers and just retail in general is extremely competitive right now. So if you could create partnerships, it's going to be win-win. That's what you're ultimately looking for. And when done right, these strategic retail partnerships can result in additional exposure for both sides, additional revenue for both sides, better use of space for one of the retailers if they're not really utilizing that space in a highly profitable per square footage way currently. It can also stimulate foot traffic for that retailer because they have some new things, they have a new partnership, something to talk about, keep mind share going with their consumers, new consumers, existing customers. And it also creates an element of competitiveness and better chance of profitability for certain specialized consumer categories. Now, for those that maybe own a retail business, I'm assuming the majority of people watching this don't own GNC franchises, so there's going to be some crossover here. What I'll say is that if you are a retailer or business in general and you're looking for strategic partnerships, there's a few things you should probably look for when you're trying to find that great partner. And first off is around complementary offerings. Does your products and services appeal to the same demographic, same psychographic type of consumer, but they're not competing there, actually they work well in tandem together. Secondary, customer bases. Do you have similar fan bases, customer bases that don't have a ton of overlap? There's an element of overlap that you obviously need, but you don't want them to be constantly the same customers and you actually cannibalizing each other's business. Another one is complementary operational expertise. You might be great at something, they might be great at something else. 1 + 1 = 3 type of a scenario here with operational things. You might also be able to learn some things to take in your own business that's outside of that partnership. So learning abilities, things like that, indirect kind of benefits that come involved with partnerships are always something great to look at. And then finally, and probably most importantly of all of this, is to make sure that the overall structure of the partnership is very flexible and has a lot of expectations built in there, but making sure that there is some leeway with the way that the partnership is put together. You don't want to just kind of jump all in and just go full force, maybe nationwide with different types of partnerships. You don't really know what it's going to turn out to be like until you kind of get into it. So do a test in a certain market, make sure you get enough of data to be able to figure out if this is going to be something that works really well. If you're just a small local retailer, again, that you might not have to go through all these steps, but you want to make sure that you do have some flexibility in the agreement so you're not stuck in something that's either long-term or something that's extremely stringent in terms of what your partner is expecting out of this or what you're expecting from the partner. It's just something that you don't want to have to get really deep into something, have to unwind it and create a bunch of chaos in your general business. So let's bring this all back to GNC in general and just kind of overall just talk about the history. I mentioned earlier in the video they've been doing this for more than 2 decades. You guys are fairly probably familiar with the one that they have been partners with for over these 2 decades, and that's with Rite Aid. This is the pharmacy, another PA-based business, Pennsylvania-based business. They have been doing business with them since, I think, late 1998, and currently, according to, I think, the Q2 filings, they're in about 2,000 store-within-a-store concepts within the Rite Aid locations. That has went down significantly. Rite Aid's been having some issues with their businesses overall, and then GNC obviously has been kind of midstream in their store optimization plan. They're closing some locations as well within those. But they have been partners with Rite Aid for more than 2 decades, an exclusive like drug channel partnership. Now, another longstanding partner that GNC has been with Walmart, specifically Sam's Club, since around 2011. GNC and Sam's Club kind of went into this with saying, hey, Sam's Club wanted to make sure that they had a more robust offering of supplements and sports nutrition products within their club, to make sure that they're appealing to this new consumer base that's coming in worrying about better for you, healthier for you type of intent purchases. So you had them kind of work with GNC, and GNC was getting out of this that they were getting their brand, their retail brand, out to a more mass type of a consumer. So why now in 2019 has GNC decided to try this up, kind of double down on this, especially when you're talking about them trying to close 1,000 plus locations across the United States? And this is a retail strategy that a lot of people are trying to popularize around the idea of getting outside of the 4 walls, building your brand outside of the 4 walls. And GNC is kind of targeting certain strategic retail partners to help them grow their brand outside of their 4 walls within different mainstream consumer sets. So GNC currently has a few of partnerships that they are piloting right now that they've announced publicly. They also have them in some of their filings. The first one started in late 2018, but it's gotten ramped up in 2019, and that's with Dick's Sporting Goods. So this is the sporting goods store, another Pennsylvania-based company, so it just happens that they really like to work with Pennsylvania-based companies because they are one as well. But you have Dick's Sporting Goods, you have a section of products that they have been growing with nutritional supplements and sports nutrition. They still do have a lot of just like third-party brands that they buy through a distributor, but GNC is bringing in 50 of their private label products to be on shelf as well, so that's giving a lot of brand recognition for them. I think they're saying at the end of Q3 they should have about 77 stores. There is a potential of over 565 locations of Dick's Sporting Goods, so ton of opportunity for that to grow as they're getting some really good indicators of sales performance. The second one is with Hudson News. You guys do some business traveling or just traveling in general, you guys do see those Hudson News locations, those little stores within airports. So GNC is actually putting in, again, some of the private label products within the Hudson News locations, those retail locations. They're having those specifically be in kind of categories that make sense for travel. So you have energy products, you have some wellness products, you have some sleep products. And currently, at the end of Q3, they're looking at about 360 locations that they're going to be in. But there is a potential of around 950 locations for that partnership. The third one is with Albertsons. It's kind of the earliest one in. They're still very fresh in terms of that partnership. Albertsons is the second biggest like pure play grocer behind Kroger. There's a ton of different banners across the Albertsons name in general, but Albertsons is having them put out in some of their products. Again, you do currently have GNC in about 35 locations at the end of Q3. That's going to happen here at the end of this month. But there is a potential of about 2,000 plus locations that this partnership could work within. Now, we talked about Rite Aid as well. They've also extended the contract this year with Rite Aid, I think until 2021. They probably would have wanted to go a little bit longer with that partnership, but with Rite Aid's business being a little bit up in the air as well, they've tried to go through a few acquisitions and a lot of different things going on with the Rite Aid business overall. I think GNC is just trying to limit the long-term exposure with a partnership like that. And then the final strategic retail partnership that GNC has not announced, or at least I haven't seen anything out there announced, and I couldn't really find anything for their partner announcing anything as well, but with 7-Eleven. Now, 7-Eleven is potentially the biggest, most exciting partnership that GNC could have, because 7-Eleven is the biggest convenience store in the world. And this was spotted to me. There was some photos sent to me from a Austin location of 7-Eleven where they saw like a cardboard end cap kind of shelving setup that was similar to the style that was in Hudson News, but kind of geared toward quick consumption type of products, pills, caps, things like that. That was also around wellness, energy, sleep, but based around probably the convenience customer that's coming into 7-Eleven. They kind of went even a little bit further and had it branded a little bit. So this is maybe 7-Eleven's working, or GNC and them together trying to brand something a little bit more. But what it was called was GNC 24/7 Life by 7-Eleven. So I will pop up some pictures for you guys here, just so you guys could see what that looks like. Also wrote an article on Medium. If you guys are not following me on Medium, the links are down below. The article has a bunch of different photos and things on there and a bunch of different charts and things that I've found. This is an unknown test. I don't know how big. If I can get some details, I will. Right now, I think 7-Eleven has about 8,000-ish locations across North America, in Canada, and the US. So potentially this could be massive for GNC if they can get a really good test, a lot of indicators, and get this scaled across all of the stores. Now, what's at stake for GNC? Like, what's going on? Why are they doing this? Why are they going all in? Like I mentioned a few times, like, they're going through a store optimization plan at this point. They're closing a lot of store locations. And because of that, they need to create some element of still growing their brand, making sure that consumers still see their brand in more diverse locations. So what this does is, one, it helps them just create revenue of closed locations that they're obviously going to lose that revenue from. I think from the numbers I saw, $80 million-ish in these initial tests. That does not include, or I don't think it includes anything with the Rite Aid or the Sam's Club type of a deal. So what we're talking about here is from those initial tests with Dick's Sporting Goods, Albertsons, and Hudson News. This also helps GNC overall, like with some of the geographical areas. Sometimes if they're closing low-performing stores in geographical areas that maybe they don't have a lot of coverage on already, them being able to maybe be in a 7-Eleven or be in an Albertsons, it still allows them to have coverage in those areas. They also are able to just pass all those costs over and improve the overall cost structure for GNC. Mentioned this a few times, but just helps overall them get their brand into new customers in new channels, ones that particularly wouldn't buy from GNC or go into a GNC location, but they still know the GNC name. The GNC brand has a lot of equity. This store closures and things like that does take a hit on brand equity overall in the public perception. So them rebuilding some of that is a positive for them, and especially with new types of customers. And there's somewhat a trace benefit to them being in Hudson News because of international travelers and a lot of different people coming through airports. Obviously, it also helps them with just brand equity, building brand name across maybe some international customers. GNC is growing their retail footprint and name overall internationally, so any help to kind of build that momentum is great for GNC. So what could be next? Like, what's next for partnerships? Where could GNC go with this if they're going to continue to double down, triple down on this retail strategy? They, at this point, pretty much have all of the sales channels kind of covered. They are in military bases already. You know, they're in the drug, they're in the food, they're in the club.
You can find me in the club, bottle full of bub. Mama, I got what you need if you need to fill a buzz.
They're in the convenience section. They're working with partners like Amazon. They obviously have their own direct-to-consumer site, things of that nature. But one that they don't have any kind of coverage in currently is like the mass channel overall. They would probably want to extend their relationship with Walmart, maybe in a wholesale type of an agreement, or if Walmart is going to create some type of private label accelerator like Amazon online with their Walmart.com marketplace, maybe GNC gets involved in that way, but it's probably going to be through some type of wholesale agreement. So where does that kind of leave GNC? Is there any other channels that could potentially be important to them? One of the untracked channels and very close to GNC and fitness-minded people is one that gets forgotten about a lot, and that's the gym channel. And that it's not the biggest channel overall in terms of consumer products, and like I said, it's untracked. It's one of those things that's very fragmented. But if GNC is able to go and find some partners in the gym channel, ones that are growing, ones that maybe are new and exciting in areas where they can expand their brand in, it could be potentially enriching for GNC from a brand side and from a revenue side. What I'm thinking about here is if they go wide, they could be going with something like a Planet Fitness. Those customers generally are not maybe supplement buyers or they're new to supplements, be a great consumer segment for GNC to introduce themselves to and make sure they can shed that kind of male-centric, meathead, sports buying past and align themselves with Planet Fitness, a fast-growing fitness center in the United States. And then if they want to go deep, they might want to figure out partnerships with some of the boutique fitness type of offerings at this point. So what I'm talking about here is like Barry's Boot Camp or Soul Cycle or Orange Theory Fitness. This could be through a number of like quick consumption type of products. It could also be something, maybe they create a exclusive kind of co-branded type of offering for those customer sets that are extremely aligned with that culture and just introduce the GNC name to them. So hopefully that explains a little bit about what GNC is doing to maybe backload some of the store closures and try to keep up brand equity and try to grow outside of their four walls. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you want to help support me, make sure you guys hit that thumbs up button on this video. If this is the first time you've been introduced to my videos, would love for you guys to be a part of my community by subscribing to my channel. I upload several videos just like this weekly. And if you guys want to connect further outside of this platform, I do include all of my social media links down below. I just want to thank you guys again for your time. Hopefully I gave you some value in return, and we'll see you guys on the next video.